Welcome to the Friday Power Lunch, a weekly show amplifying the voices of the Virginia grassroots. Each week, we provide engaging conversations about politics, culture, and women making change. Produced by the unstoppable women of Network Nova, our motto is, when we vote, we win. The Friday Power Lunch is recorded before a live Zoom audience. Follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and show us some love and become a sponsor through Patreon. The Friday Power Lunch. Badass women getting things done.
It is June 21st, 2024. You are on the Friday Power Lunch. I'm Katherine White, your host, bringing you the guests, the issues, the action. We fuel the grassroots across Virginia and coast to coast. We get things done and we make politics fun. So we're so glad you're here because the theme today is it's up to us. And I want to say it is up to us. And so we have two great guests to talk about that. That is Kyle Spencer. Welcome. Kyle,
Hello.
She's a former, hello, how are you? We're glad you're here today, but former New York Times contributor and author of Raising Them Right, The Untold Story of America's Ultra-Conservative Youth Movement and the Plot for Power. Ooh, that's going to be really great to unpack. And then because of this moment in time and what really we are fighting for, we want to get a preview of some of the issues we'll be talking about. Sarah Standiford manages the Planned Parenthood Votes Campaign and Elections team. Welcome, Sarah. We're so glad you're here. And I have to say, no one is coming to save us. It is up to us. So with that said, Robin, I would love to talk a little bit about the Women's Summit, and maybe Fennell would like to join me, and I can get my pants back on right. You know, I went out of the room and I lost the whole power of my computer and had to reboot. So I'm a little out of sorts. Hey.
But no one can tell because you are Katherine White, so we make it right.
Oh, by the way, we both have our white on today. It must be that liberation kind of feeling.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
So why don't we talk a little bit? Why don't you talk a little bit about the Women's Summit?
Yes, we are so excited about the Women's Summit. And so we've got some slides that we want to show you guys so that you can get a taste of just how wonderful the summit is going to be. So the first thing we're going to show you is Friday night. It's the Postcard Palooza. There are going to be postcard writers coming from all across the country to participate. The room is going to be fabulous. Everyone will be there. You will have ideas. You'll hear from speakers. It is going to be fantastic. Michelle McKinney, who is one of the most awesome postcard writers, will be there as well. You don't want to miss this, right, Katherine? You don't want to miss.
No, not at all. And what's exciting about, if you're the people that are sponsoring us too, we'll have a special thing that evening, which will be fantastic. And you won't want to miss after this wonderful postcard, which is going to go all night. Let's just face it. 4 to 9, and then at 7 to 9, we have the mix and mingle. But let's talk about the program.
So
next slide up, Robin. We put up the next slide. Yes, Saturday program. Go ahead, Fennell.
Yeah, the Saturday program. So this is what I'm really excited about. Well, first of all, it's going to be the networking hall. And you guys, for those of you, if you haven't gone online to actually see the Capitol, where the conference center is, it is absolutely beautiful. Floor to ceiling windows. So the atmosphere is going to be fantastic. Then the show is going to open up when we vote, we win. And you're going to hear from some fantastic speakers. Democracy Looks Good on You, which is going to open up the Friday Power Lunch on Saturday. And so instead of a song, Katherine, it's going to be a fashion show. I know you all can't wait to see the fashion show.
I have to say to you that I feel like the whole event this fashion show has caught fire and everybody wants to be in it. I'm so excited. And I just want to say that we're going to open up that stage with Congressman Jamie Raskin and just blow through When We Vote, We Win with great speakers, the fashion show, and then into the networking hall where people will get to really do what is really where things happen when you meet each other, right? You have 2 hours to eat, visit everybody, and then what else are you going to do in that 2 hours?
So, well, first of all, after I get over hearing Congressman Raskin, which is going to be pretty fantastic because we know how he feels about democracy, the Supreme Court, all of these things, to hear his perspective on that is going to be fantastic. And I do think the networking hall is what Robin loves the most, which is the idea that people get to come together, have ideas shared, be able to talk, mingle so that we can keep in solidarity. So that's going to be fantastic. And then the part that I'm going to love about it is this little thing we call perfect practice. We will have an opportunity for those of you who would like to come over, and we're going to talk to you about how to have some of these fantastic conversations. And we're going to do what we haven't seen done. We're actually going to role play them for you so that you can see that we all learn this stuff together. And when we're passionate about something, it makes it so much easier to talk about.
Yeah, I love that. And then we go into the afternoon with our All In to Win, and we'll have I'm excited about Rachel Bidikoff. We're really talking about how to punch back. I'm all into just really a new way to fight, a new way to stand up, especially when we know what we're facing. With our speakers we're talking about today, we really have to understand we're up against something that's been building for years, and it's going to take time to really dismantle it. So, I'm excited into that.
Well, you know what else, Katherine? Because we haven't gone through all the speakers, but there are a lot of speakers, and when you guys go to the website, you can see them. There's a ton of them. It is Jess Craven will be there, which is awesome. Chopwood Carry Water, but I wanted to talk about the screening of Sisterhood. What do you think about that?
Yes, I think it's good. Let's put up after we have these panels and great discussions, then we have a somewhat of a dinner on your own break, but then we're back for the Sisterhood at 5:30 p.m. with CJ Krim and also American film critic Nell Minow. How fun in a nice, cool theater, because it's been so damn hot out. It'll be really nice. You can bring food in there and hang out and watch the movie. And then we'll have a nice panel about the power of women in the grassroots and art and activism. And then we kick this off with Chris Matthews, who's a fantastic social justice singer. And she'll thread that movement, all those songs throughout the evening, in between fantastic speakers about democracy is more than a word.
Yeah, Katherine, and I wanted to just throw one other thing out. For those of you who have not seen Sisterhood, we know that we love Miss Margaret, and that's how we met her through this film. And I just want to remind you that she is in this film. And I don't know, I could have a prayer, maybe we could see Miss Margaret, but who knows? But if we see her in the film, I guess I'll be just as happy. But we'll see.
Yeah. No, I want to say too, for those of you maybe that can't come during the day, this is a special ticket during the evening, and students are free. So if you want students or family and friends, this is a great part of the day to attend. Special ticket price. Just go to our website. You'll be able to find that. It's the Badass Bash. It's only $35 for regular tickets and in the evening. And then also, like I said, students are free, and we need to get the young people out just to see us in action. So I'm very excited. And I don't know, I think people, if they have any questions in the chat, if you've already got your ticket or you want to learn more about it,
Yeah, and
this is the after chat.
This is the one thing, Katherine, that I'll say about this summit, because I've been talking to all my friends and family and anybody who lives in the area, especially because you can just be there for the day. Katherine, you said this to me, no one goes swimming alone.
That's true.
I think that's what this summit is. We are about to embark on something really big here that we know we have to win, and we know it's going to take every bit of energy that we have. And you don't go out there alone. You bring your friends and family with you. So if you're coming to the summit, make sure that you bring someone with you. You will be amazed at how much it will inspire them to want to work with all of us to make the changes that need to happen in 2024.
Yeah, and I so agree. That's what made our power, is this women and people coming together and sharing and just being excited, because this is hard work. You can get really overwhelmed. And like when I brought up at the beginning of the show a couple years ago, when Roe was overturned, I remember how we all felt. I remember running down to the Supreme Court with other friends and protesting, and it was just filled with people. But what we had was that event a couple of days later, and I tell you what, people left saying, I'm so glad I had someplace to go. I feel so much better and empowered now. They were ready to go out and just continue this long march and fight for our freedom. And I think, again, here we are years later, and we still have to keep moving forward in this trajectory to make sure that we don't stop. We really can't. We can't, we have to keep going, and we won't be gaslit to think that some way it's going to be okay. We really are in the fight for, I think, our country. I really do. So join us for that. I'm going to put in the chat for everybody a link so you can view all the speakers that will be there. And just know that this may change a bit, but then you'll get to see our awesome lineup, and then we can get on with the program. So it's right in there right now.
And
all right.
Video we got today?
Swag.
So I was going to say, I have the apron. I ordered the apron. I have the Democracy Looks Good on You shirt, and I have the Democracy is More Than a Word shirt. So I can't wait. And so we have a lot of work to do, and you might as well look good doing it. Just saying.
I know it is, and it does look good on you. So look at that. I love the woman, the t-shirt you have, the Democracy t-shirt is fantastic. And I'm going to say those aprons, these are canvassing aprons, folks. When you go door to door and you need to put all your lid in there, you have all those pockets and your phone. And it is like waiting tables, but we're waiting on doors. And you put all your goodies in there. And we have bags, we have it all, because we like to look good and we like to have fun and we like to do this our way. That's for sure. So thank you to our swag master up there, Sarah Calhoun, ambassador of Buzz, has been working hard on our shop. So thank you. All right, look at that. I see Melody showing us she will not back down. She's out there protesting. Melody's going to be at the summit, and again, never giving up. So let's get to it. So why don't we bring up Sarah?
Sarah's right there.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hey, how are you? Sorry, it's like we say, it's one of those days. It must be a Freaky Friday.
It's okay. I'm so happy to be here. And the joy and energy that you bring to these conversations is contagious. So it's giving me some enthusiasm for the rest of the day.
I love it. So let me introduce you. It's Sarah Standiford. You manage the Planned Parenthood votes campaigns and elections team. Tell us about that real quick. Tell us about yourself and what you do for Planned Parenthood. Let's start with that.
I'm the National Campaigns Director at Planned Parenthood Action Fund, Planned Parenthood Votes. That's the politics and advocacy arm of Planned Parenthood organizations across the country. And so delighted to be here to talk about how we can work together to take back access to our reproductive freedom.
I know. So we really think this is obviously the key. And when we're looking at the attack on our rights, I mean, let's talk about that day when Roe's overturned and we have the Dobbs decision. And 2 years since, what does this landscape look like now? I think this is really important. Let me just say why. I just feel like when we talk about democracy, this really concentration and attack on women is just one of those fundamental, the reasons about democracy is women have to be free. I mean, if you don't have free women, you don't have democracy. So this is actually an attack on that. But with that said, that 2-year landscape, let's just tell us what is happening now after Roe has fallen. What does it look like for women across this country?
Yeah. Well, I think you're right about that. And I do think that the same actors who are working to take away access to reproductive health care are, explicitly going after democracy as well. And that's, there's a reason to that. And I think we're going to hear more about that from Kyle. But I do want to actually just emphasize what I said at the top, which is enthusiasm and energy and hope, because as my boss, Alexis McGill Johnson, often reminds us, hope is a discipline, and the community that you're building and the organizing and engagement that you're building is going to be critical to getting back to a reimagined right to abortion and to full equity and justice. So I'll answer your question about kind of the harm that we're experiencing right now, but know that there's opportunity as well. So,
yes.
I think we all know what's at stake. 2 years later, the Dobbs decision just continues to wreak havoc. The pain, unfortunately, has only just begun because, we have now 21 states where abortion is partially or fully banned. That means that more than 1 in 3 women, and of course, more trans and non-binary folks, have lost access to abortion in their home states. And then that access to care just becomes deeply fractured. So we continue to face devastating consequences of abortion bans. But then we have this ecosystem where states are attempting to restrict travel so that patients can go to where they can get care. And they're attempting to restrict access to care, restricting abortion pills coming to patients. So States have responded, some in negative ways, some in positive ways. Some have worked really creatively to protect and expand access. I think there were over 380 bills just this year filed in over 40 states to expand access, do things like provide funding, support travel, make sure that insurance is covering abortion, shield laws, data privacy. But then, unfortunately, and we knew this was going to be the case, other states have gone even farther in the other direction. So 350 bills filed in over 40 states. They're just continuing to go even deeper into a really terrible hole, trying to restrict access to IVF, as we know from the Alabama ruling. Louisiana passed a first of its kind law classifying mifepristone as a controlled substance. So these types of attempts to restrict that go kind of even farther in penalizing not only access to abortion, but fundamental fertility and reproductive freedoms are continuing, and we're going to see more of them in the years to come.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like we're playing whack-a-mole, or, it's amazing to me how, when you think about all the different levels you're saying, in some states, IVF, some states classifying mifepristone as a dangerous drug, right? Like, every state, it's just interesting to see how this is coordinated. So with that said, what are you feeling about this coordination? Is this coming from sort of one place or just several places when you think about this actual view of how to restrict everything around women's rights and women's bodily autonomy?
That's a really interesting question. And I appreciate the theme of the conversation, because I do think, while not coordinated as in a command and control, structure that's out, it is really clear that this is a crisis in democracy, and it's the same federal and state lawmakers and courts that are continuing their attacks on the democratic process. And they're using like every lever. There's not just one. So, for example, because of the success of voters going directly to the ballot to either protect access to abortion or expand access, we're seeing attacks on the citizen-initiated ballot measure process. There's attempts to lift the threshold for passage in like Ohio and Missouri this year. There's introduction of multiple initiatives to try to confuse people in Nebraska and Arizona. There's been outright harassment of petitioners in Montana in the past couple of weeks who are trying to collect signatures for a right to abortion measure. And so while most of those specific efforts have not been successful, it's all of a piece, right? Because the very people who are pushing the laws on to restrict access to abortion know that they cannot win in the court of public opinion. So they're trying to undermine the democratic institutions, including our courts, and ultimately ban abortion nationwide. But they have to change the rules if they're going to do that. They've tried to use the courts to restrict access to mifepristone, as you know. They're now trying to deny pregnant people emergency abortion care. We'll hear more about that in the coming weeks from the Supreme Court. And they're even going so far as signaling their intent to enforce a radical, incorrect interpretation of Comstock Act to actually, which was passed before women could even vote, to attempt to restrict access to abortion. So, there's no end to the kind of democratic, anti-democratic efforts, but we really need to keep our eyes on what they're doing.
Yeah, and we talk about there's no stopping us now. It seems like, too, that they are not stopping. And I know when this decision went down, I think it's sort of, even though Alito had said, oh, this decision on Dobbs does not signal all these other decisions that protected, marriage and gay rights. What we do see is that, no, those are at risk. So it's very interesting to think about this and the Supreme Court and the area of the court. So coming up, could you talk a little bit about the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act so people understand what that means and what that could mean in the upcoming week, that EMTALA? What is that?
Sure.
And why is that so important? And with the Biden administration trying to sort of do what they need to do, like you said, they went after EMTALA.
Yeah, and I promise we'll end in a more hopeful place, but this is really kind of a really dark scenario. And we were just talking about your previously about knowing emergency care physicians and what they're contending with. So we expect a ruling from the Supreme Court as early as next Wednesday, which will rule on whether a state abortion ban like Idaho can override the longstanding requirement that hospital ERs have to provide emergency care, if that emergency care includes abortion. So, the consequences of allowing ERs to opt out of care for patients who are in distress are simply catastrophic and even deadly. And that's not hyperbole, excuse me.
Hyperbole. That's a good one.
Without the protections of EMTALA, the hospital can refuse to treat a person who's experiencing a medical emergency, and like water breaking dangerously early, or some kind of uncontrollable hemorrhage, which could cause kidney failure or sepsis, or preeclampsia, which could cause seizures or brain injury. So the bottom line is, and I know voters, all of us agree, that everyone facing a health emergency should be able to get the care that they need without interference from politicians. But this case is allowing potentially Idaho and other states to do that.
Right. I feel like we talked about this too, is that it's even more not just about abortion care, but this could be the way that all the justices signed on, even, Sotomayor and who they all signed on to, I think, is that they can say pretty much if they don't want to treat somebody based on some conscious, feeling that maybe they don't agree with their lifestyle, they don't have to treat them. And I feel like that is going to be really problematic. And I don't know why I know me and you don't want to know why they signed on to that, but I know that is going to create problems that I think we're going to be dealing with, going forward. That you can actually refuse care to anybody for any reason because it bothers you. It just seems like we're going down a really crazy rabbit hole with all this stuff. But so lastly, to wrap things up, I want to say, what other changes could lie ahead? I know, what's on your mind? So in the keeping in the hopeful lane, I know that there are some people doing lawsuits that are maybe, I think maybe in Florida, when they've called it, this religious look at the law, and they're saying, well, I'm Jewish and I don't view the law like you. And I know that there are some people in the ACLU and some other religious groups that are saying, well, you're discriminating against my religion by saying this is a religious decision and so forth. And what do you see that's maybe some challenges coming ahead that are kind of creative or trying to sort of push this at a different angle?
Well, listen, I mean, we're in the middle of an election year. You all know what's at stake. And I guess what I want to return us to is where we can influence the outcome of not only the elections right in front of us, but the long-term effort. So it's important to know, we're in this for the long haul. I think we collectively all are. It's going to take a long time to map back to a federal protective reimagined right to abortion, but there's a lot that we can do, not only in November, but in the next 2, 4, 6 years. One of the things we can do in the immediate is just make sure that we're, engaging with each other, with voters, people, to make sure that we're all fighting for a future that we believe in. And I do think what's exciting about this measure is this moment is not only the work that we can do to win a federal trifecta of support for sexual and reproductive health, but also work up and down the ballot, whether that is flipping state chambers, governors, and Supreme Courts. I think in Virginia, in the coming years, you're going to have an opportunity potentially to vote directly on a constitutional amendment to reaffirm a right to abortion. That's really important. There are 9 other states potentially moving forward such a strategy this cycle. And I think that really shows that, regardless of where folks are on the ideological or political spectrum, they will show up for the freedom to decide their own reproductive futures. And so that's a place where people can have an impact right now. I'm happy to put some clips or some links in the chat about how you can take action in Virginia and other states as well.
We definitely will love that. And we appreciate you coming, Sarah. This has been a good discussion. I think previewing again with the Women's Summit. Sarah Standiford, thank you for being here, and keep up the fight and keep up the hope. And it's true, we got to get everybody out to vote. Hope and vote. That's what we got to do. So thank you. Thank you. And
thank you for having me.
With that said, I think we're going to show Women's Summit video. Is that correct?
Yes, we are.
I
just want to say that was an amazing segment, though. It was really, really informative.
Yeah, let's hit it. We're going to talk about, our sponsors. Is that where, thank you. Okay, little summit. Let's show our sponsor videos. And one part of this summit, I'll have to say, we cannot do the summit without our supporters. So folks in the room that have sponsored us, have supported us, I can't say enough about how much that means. I want to say thank you to our top sponsors, our Blue Power sponsor, Abigail Spanberger. I mean, why wouldn't you invest in women? And you know what? She did. I have to say, I'm really excited that she's running for governor because she showed up and she sponsored us. So we're thankful for her and that big sponsorship, and also Win Virginia. And we know Win Virginia does a lot for the Commonwealth and gets behind the candidates. So Win Virginia has gotten behind us for many, many years. So they are also a Blue Power sponsor. So thank you to them. And then our Blue Wave sponsors, Red Wine and Blue. I was so thankful for them. Feminist Majority. Thank you for also sponsoring us. And lastly, Progressive Turnout Project, big sponsors. Love that. And we have our Blue Roots sponsors, and we're so grateful. A lot of our Blue Roots people will be in the networking hall, and that's going to be a lot of fun for people to walk around and meet all the organizations that are going to be there to talk about how they're going to be interacting in this election. And lastly, I want to also thank all the Summit badasses that gave, and our Summit champs, our Blue crew, and all the people and supporters that have given anything from $25 to $500. Thank you so much. So yay to sponsorship.
Yay to sponsorship.
From our stunning landscapes to our diverse communities, Virginia is a lot of things. But most importantly, it's home. I'm Abigail Spanberger. I grew up here in Central Virginia. And now my husband Adam and I are raising our 3 girls here, teaching them, like my parents taught me, that if you see something wrong, do everything in your power to right it. It's why I committed to a life of service for our country and for the people of Virginia. First in law enforcement, then at CIA, working to keep our country safe. And today in Congress, where despite dangerous polarization, I have found ways to bring people together and focus on what really matters. Providing veterans with the support they need.
The group of veterans who need help is military firefighters. Abigail Spanberger's Firefighters Protection Act would change that.
Supporting small businesses so they can grow. Assisting families and communities struggling with addiction.
The Summer Barrow Act.
It's the 12 different grant programs to fight addiction.
These programs are going to save lives. Somebody else is not going to go through what we went through.
Proving that to get things done, people must come first. But today, we find ourselves at a crossroads. Our country and our Commonwealth are facing fundamental threats to our rights, our freedoms, and to our democracy.
Legislative battle set to unfold in Virginia.
Virginians are at risk of losing the right to reproductive freedom.
One Virginia county to remove certain books from its curriculum.
The chaos that stunned the world.
Government shutdown.
While some politicians in Richmond focus on banning abortion in books, what they're not doing is helping people. I know how to bring people together and get real things done that improve lives. That's why I'm running for governor. Because when we rise above the chaos and division, we can focus on what matters most to Virginians. Lowering prescription drug prices, growing the middle class, lowering costs and easing inflation. No more using teachers and our kids as political pawns. It's about focusing on recruiting and retaining teachers so all of our kids can succeed. And stopping extremists from shredding women's reproductive rights. Even in this moment of deep division, we can seize the opportunity. I am running to serve all Virginians in every community across our Commonwealth because it's about time we do what's right for everyone. And that's what matters most.
That's what matters most.
Yeah, so that's some hopefulness right there.
I know I didn't tell you, I got myself all choked up because if you want an infusion of hope, listen to Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger talk about the possibilities. And with that said, I'm going to hand it over to you to get into some really deep discussion about this shredding of our rights by some way Jackie, people. So go ahead.
Thank you so much. I am so happy that you're back, Kyle. For everyone who's just joining us, this is Kyle Spencer. She's a former New York Times contributor, and she is the author of Raising Them Right. And Kyle, I have to tell you, I finished the book this morning, and I needed to go get a stiff drink, and I don't drink. So it's really a powerful book, and it really is telling us the story about how this Turning Point USA, this youth movement started. So why don't you start by telling us why you decided to write this book? And I have a ton of questions about each of the chapters in this book. We won't get to all of them, but the ones that are the most disturbing.
Well, thank you so much. First of all, I just want to tell you all, I am so I'm uplifted to be in this room with you all, and I'm so bummed that I'm not coming to your conference. I'm at a wedding in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm happy to be here, but I'm just totally torn up that I can't. So you're going to have a blast, and I'm going to be watching it all when I can have access to the videos. And I also want to just say that I try to start my mornings with a little bit of a prayer and some hope, and I wasn't able to do that this morning. And as I'm listening to you talk, I'm thinking, okay, I'm good. I'm ready for the day. So I want to thank you for that too. Yeah, I wrote a book. It's called Raising Them Right. And it was about how young activists galvanize and are trained and funded and indoctrinated and sent out to fight for radicalism around our country. I wrote it because I was doing work for the New York Times on college campuses, and we were hearing about how overly woke these campuses were, but I was seeing a lot of radicalized kids who wanted to bring guns to campuses, who wanted to ban the right to reproductive rights of students, who wanted to get rid of the kinds of diversity initiatives that we all know make our country great. And I said, I got to write this book. And I spent 5 years following Turning Point USA, which included Charlie Kirk. I spent a lot of time following Ben Shapiro. I heard Trump speak many times. I went to a lot of CPACs. I went to all of those horrible Turning Point USA conferences. And it was really gross. And it was really disturbing. And the organization on the right is just so intense, so moneyed, so tight-knit. And I think that is just absolutely entirely dispiriting. And then I see you guys and I think we can do this. We can organize ourselves. And so, that's that.
So here's what I think is so interesting about this book is that in order to solve any problem, you really have to understand the root cause. Yeah. And so I think there's a root cause here. And I think most people thought, oh, President Obama, and this is great for our country and blah, 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 which it was. But this is really sort of what got these people started. So Can you talk a little bit about that? Because in the book, you really focus on Charlie Kirk, Cliff Maloney, and Candace Owens. And so there's a lot of Obama hate here, and that's sort of when it started. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so this new youth movement, it really, as you pointed out, started with this absolute total hatred of Obama and the way in which Obama supported people, supported young people, supported a new vision of hope and inclusivity for our country. And that just killed them. They don't want that. These are not good people. These are not loving people. These are not expansive, warm people. They are people that want to keep power very, very closely centralized. And so they began to slowly kind of fight back against Obamaism. And that was totally 100% what motivated Charlie. And the thing that Charlie Kirk will say in the beginning was that he was actually trying to mimic a lot of the grassroots activism that that Obama had become famous for. He was trying to mimic that, but for evil. Right. But just as a really quick aside, and I try to remind myself of this all the time when I'm thinking about this fight, is I know it can feel so dispiriting at times. I know it can feel like we're losing. I know it can feel like we're being overwhelmed by the hatred. But I try to remind myself that they are doing this because they feel so threatened that in many ways we are winning. We are winning the culture wars. We are winning a vision for the country. We see it all the time in this idea of inclusivity. And so I know we have so much to fight for, but they are scared to death of the beautifulness that we want this country to become. And that is what is motivating them.
And you know what else I found really interesting as you talk about mimicking is that they love the way that President Obama used social media. And so everything that we do really good, they really copy it. And so that's how they got started. But I think the other thing that I found really interesting in the book, which sort of says something for us in terms of we can't walk away from social media. We have to own every space, no matter how upset you are about TikTok at this point. Don't stop, keep on going, because we have to own those spaces. But I think the other thing that was important was how they got people interested in going to their conferences. You talk about the amount of money that these billionaire donors give to organizations like Turning Point to get people engaged. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing that's always interesting with the radical right is they take a lot from us. We know this in very bad, very, very gross ways. But they understand that the kind of grassroots organizing that Democrats do when we are at our best is so powerful. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to take that kind of grassroots organizing. Sometimes we refer to it, all of us, as astroturfing, because it can feel very fake. It's not real. They mimic grassroots organizing and they pump lots and lots and lots and lots of money into it. And so they kind of supersize it, right? They magnify it. And they really understand, and this is a positive thing that we need to continue to understand, that they really understand those big, fat, dark money donors. They really understand that people have to come together, that important things happen, that organizing happens, that relationships happen, that my great friend Nancy McLean always says, organizing happens at the speed of relationships, right? They know that. That's why Ginny Thomas and all her crazy friends are always getting together to scheme horrible things, because they know when they do it at conferences. And so I think the thing that's so empowering and wonderful about the conference you guys are having is that you, I hope, are going to become a model, and already are a model, for women all over the country, Democrats all over the country, because we need to organize early and often and get together and talk and energize each other. We can't win this unless we're constantly energizing each other. And they do that all the time. They're crazy, horrible, evil things that they say to each other. That's energizing their evil, diabolic stuff.
It really is. And I'm so happy that you said that, as we are trying to fill the rooms to the rafters.
Yes.
For this summit, because we know how hard this fight is going to be this year, and you need every ounce of energy, every ounce of encouragement, and we do that and we build solidarity together. I wanted to just say something else that I think is important. I think what we talked about is that they spend 3 times the money that we spend on these gatherings that they do for their young people, and we sort of struggle sometimes to say, can we get a fish fry? Can we get some help with this? And we really have to understand that we have to pour more money into these organizations, especially youth organizations that are rallying to pull young Democrats together. So what thoughts do you have about how we might be more encouraging to get people to do that?
I think the thing about that all of politics is that a lot of people act sort of like it's a herd activity, right? So we need to constantly emphasize and repeat to big donors, to small donors, that we have to invest in convening, organizing together, getting together, that this is of great value. Democrats, I don't understand why, are really short-term thinkers. They don't like to think long-term. They want to say, well, how can I get Susie to vote tomorrow? Well, we want to get Susie to vote tomorrow, and that's important. But we also have to learn how to organize together, and we also have to get together. And part of the getting together is to plan, right? We plan short-term, we plan midterm, we plan long-term. But I think the number one advice I would say to everybody in this space is we have to start repeating the importance of to donors, to people that make kind of decisions about where to put money. We have to keep telling them, particularly right now, guys, this is going to be a 50-year fight. Yeah. And we are not, we win. We are in this for 50 years. And if you don't start getting us together and helping to get us together to organize, we're not coming back. We are not coming back. And
I was going to say, this election will not be lost because there are not more people who believe in what we believe. It would be because people didn't get out and vote, because they didn't understand fully what was happening. And these people understand exactly what's happening. That's why they can take a minority and through money. But I always say one person is more than any dollar if we can just get people mobilized.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of ideas. I follow you on Twitter. And you have a lot to say. In this book, though, you just sort of chronicle the steps of these people from beginning to end and in terms of how they got started. So let's talk a little bit about the hopefulness in terms of, how are we going to continue to build this hopefulness? How are we going to continue to engage people? How are we going to beat these people?
Yeah. So first of all, I think we always have to remind ourselves there are more good people than bad out there, right? Like there are more of us than them, and we cannot forget that. Once we know that, that's why we know it's good to convene. That's why we know it's good to cooperate and collaborate and organize. Like we know that because there are more of us. So when we do that, we empower each other. I want to think all the time in my own little mini organizing, in the work I'm doing with you all and other groups. I'm always trying to think, how can I magnify? How can I amplify? How can I make the little thing I do more powerful? That means sharing each other's work on Twitter. That means coming to each other's conferences. That means calling other organizations and saying, we're having an event, join us. And you guys are incredible at doing that. And so it's like, that is a model. Democrats are such a big tent. And that is what makes us fabulous, but can also make us a little bit like, well, I'm doing my thing and you're doing your thing. And no, we don't have time for that anymore, people. We need to be allies and friends and work together and constantly magnify. The other thing I want to say quickly is that when I wrote the book, a lot of the folks that I got to talk to me from the radical right would say to me, oh, I know what you're doing. You're writing a guide for the left. You're writing a guide for progressives. And I thought, you know what? I'm writing a guide for progressives. I'm showing progressives the kind of organizing that these people are doing, the kind of money that they're funneling into young people in the training. And I'm telling progressives, we need to do this kind of work for good. And I also want to say that when I finished writing the book, I couldn't go back to journal. I do journalism. I continue to do it, but I couldn't go back to doing straight journalism anymore. And it's exactly what you all are saying. No one's coming for us. I thought I have got to get in the fight. I've got to use the knowledge I found working on this book. I've got to get in the fight, and I've got to become part of a solution, not just a person sitting and like talking about what the problem is. Yeah.
So this is what I want to say about this in the book, because it really is powerful. And I would encourage everyone to get this book, because again, you have to understand how these people are thinking. And you were right. When you said they are evil, they are evil. And when I was reading the part about Charlie Kirk in here, and the folks in his high school really hated him. But at the end of the school year, they said he was the one most likely to rule the world, which said dictator to me. So I'm just saying, part of it is the things that they do. I always quote Linda Hersham when she says, make injustice public. And the kind of hatred that these people have, it is important for our folks to understand who they are. Yeah. And we also have to do our work of telling the story about who they are. And that's what you do in this book. You tell us who they are. Now we have to do something with it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that a lot of us don't want to think that there's as much evil out there in the world as there is. I think that's kind of a little bit of a naivete that progressives and Democrats tend to have. It's like, we just don't think, oh, no, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't overturn Roe. Oh, we're not going to live in a Handmaid's Tale world. They wouldn't do that. No one wants. Oh, yes, they would. Yes, they will. Yes, they want to. That's Project 25. That's their vision for the future. It's control. It's a very small group of people ruling and controlling the lives of the rest of us. But that's the thing. When you read my book, you really see how they organize, how they get together, what their plans are, and I really tried to show it in the book, how Charlie Kirk was kind of a jerk in the beginning. At the end of the book, Charlie Kirk to me was dangerous and scary. I was scared to death. At the beginning, I thought he's kind of quirky. He obviously is driven. He's charismatic. He can really get donors to give him money. Talk to him. By the end of the book, the last talk I had with him, I thought, this guy is scaring the hell out of me. This guy, Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, these other organizations, I'm telling you, people, they will do anything. No holes barred. They're past democracy. They're past the Constitution. They're past human rights. They are out, willing to do anything unless we magnify the evilness that they represent and we get people out there organized to vote and to vote for what we believe in.
So one of the final things, because I know Katherine will be coming soon, is this. So they have this hatred for Obama that you talk about in the book. And what I notice is that the folks have this hatred for Joe Biden. Like they'll say, I hate Joe Biden. I hate Joe Biden. But if you were to ask them what he's done that makes them hate them so much, there's nothing but trying to do good things for people, which tells you a whole lot about who they are. And so we really have to take off the gloves, which is why I'm so excited Rachel Bittercoffer will be at our Women's Summit, because she's going to teach us. We have to message to the right people, but we also got to know when to punch back. And as we said last week, it's for the children. So I'm just saying.
For the children.
For the children. For the children, as Nancy Pelosi would say, it's for the children.
For the children.
For the children.
That's our saying. No, it's great. Kyle, I am just sitting here, just what you said is needed to be heard. And it just does pump me up. And it thinks about, you're right, when we try to tell people about why they need to come to the summit, this is our 8th year. Just the power of people organizing together is key. And that is the way we need to get in community and fight back. And I'll have to say, we know this election will be tough. Don't give up, because change, freedom, women's rights, education, and humanity, it's up to us. So I will just say that we cannot give up. It is up to us.
It's up to us. And I'll say this for Kyle, because I know she's going to be with us on a lot of other occasions to do lots of things with us, because I'm really looking forward to it. But I always say I love her passion, like her hair's on fire, but for all the right reasons. And so I'm glad to have a sister in hair on firedness. Just saying.
Oh yeah, I am. And I want to say this, in terms of as we're all talking about what is it we can do, what we should be doing. We all know, as somebody pointed out in the chat, if you're on this call, you are an ambassador for voting. You are an ambassador. That is your role. That is your calling here. That is your mission. And what I try to tell people is this is my thinking about it, right? You want to educate yourself, then you want to activate, and then you want to organize, right? So when you want to think constantly about magnifying, which means if you have a meeting with Moms for Liberty, not Moms for Liberty, if you have a meeting against Moms for Liberty, if you have bring moms groups, bring people together, Don't, even if you think, that group, I feel a little rivalrous with that. No, we don't have time for that. But so 10 people in your community, 10 people that are going to go out and vote. And you have to, and obviously thinking about strategically where we need people to vote, where places in Virginia and or other parts of the country. And then you want to be thinking about 2 to 3 people that can be, they're the charismatic leader types that and you tell them, you got to get 10 people. Yeah. So we magnify. Because we have those friends that the friends that are the ones we go to for restaurant recs. I go to my friend Laura for restaurant recs, and if I want a doctor, I go to my friend Stacy. And so we are the people that you go to for voting, and we need to find a couple other leaders. How we all have friends with a little more followers, friends with a little more leaders. Got to identify in your circle who are a couple of other leaders and put them to work for democracy.
I love it. I love your enthusiasm. And I'm going to say to everybody in the room, we'll be continuing to work with Kyle. Coming in the fall, we're plotting ways to, when early voting starts, to do some previewing of the movie, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So a couple things that I'm doing on my own, just very quickly. I have started a newsletter called Reporting Right, which goes out to about 1,500 journalists around the country with a very big focus on swing districts and swing states and places that really are going to matter in 24. And that is helping journalists do pro-democracy journalism. You can find it on Substack. It's called Reporting Right. Or you can reach out to me and I can sign you up. And I'd love at some point to talk to all of you about that and about how to talk to journalists. But the other thing I'm doing is I'm going around the country with 2 other democracy journalists, and we are talking about Christian nationalism and why we need to fight it by screening the film Bad Faith and then having conversations and activating. So I hope to be talking to all of you about that at some point in the future.
Yes, for sure. Well, thank you, Kyle. And if you could stay with us in the after chat, please do. So I'm just so excited that we made it to the end of the show without losing everybody again. It's been one of those days, right?
Right.
So I just really enjoyed it. Let's talk about their two guests, and thank you again to Sarah Standiford, the National Campaigns Director at Planned Parenthood Action Fund, and the awesome, energizing, and badass Punch Him When You Can, Kyle Spencer, former New York Times contributor and author of Raising Them Right. What a great program today, and all about the Women's Summit. I hope you're all pumped up for that. And so let's just say it's up to us. It's 1 o'clock.
And we won't have a show next week. No show next week.
And yeah, let's make sure everybody knows we're taking Friday off because we're going to be at the Women's Summit. So we hope we'll see you at the Watermark Hotel Friday. And instead of watching the Power Lunch, go to our YouTube channel. Maybe we're sending out some good. What are we doing, Robin? Are we going to send out something fun to watch?
Ain't no stopping us now.
Ain't no stopping us now. In fact, look, Kyle, Susan, everybody, and Susan has sent her video, and we want more dancing, people dancing into Ain't No Stopping Us Now. Please send in your video. It will take you 2 seconds to do it today. Go outside, inside, videotape yourself dancing, send it to our Dropbox, and we're going to put it in the video. So next week, your big dancing mug will be dancing on the screen with us. So how much fun would that be?
That'll be fantastic.
All right, everybody, support the show, become a patron. I hope we can get maybe 1 or 2 new patrons today. That'd be awesome. And make sure you listen to us on Apple and Spotify. And we are going to go to the after chat. You will get the recap of this, and that way you'll get all the links and all the information. I want to also say thank you to the team up there. You see everybody on the team. We couldn't do this every week without the way we work together, because it's up to us. Let's roll credits, and I'll see y'all badasses on the other side.